welcome to another video, a long overdue pickup video for everything that I got in April. Lots and lots this month because I finally bit the bullet and just caught up with a bunch of series that I was waiting for my local comic store to get, but they never seemed to get it, so I sort of switched where I was buying books. So I have months of books to catch up on. So rather than spend too long on this intro, I'll get straight into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Is the debuts, and first and foremost we have a hardcover release from Viz. This is a creator who I really enjoy. I own quite a few of their works already. Really appreciating that we're getting more of this creator's stuff in print and back in print, especially in really lovely hardcover editions and anniversary editions. But this is volume 1 of Tokyo These Days by Taiyo Matsumoto. This is a ongoing manga about a manga editor who is recently fired, I believe, either fired or purposefully makes the decision to retire, and he's very well regarded by all of the artists that he's worked with, or the mangaka that he's worked with in the past, and he's wanting to create a kind of new manga magazine, working with some of the creators that he had previously. Really wonderful, very much in Matsumoto's kind of leisurely, reflective, internal character study, not only for our main character, but for all of the various mangaka that he's worked with or was working with. Really fun mix of cast here, and I really look forward to seeing how this one continues. We have another debut. This is also from Viz. This is also from a creator that I've read some of their work previously. This is the first of their titles we've gotten in print, and this is Steel of the Celestial Shadows by Daruma Matsura. This is the story of, it's a historical drama with a supernatural twist. It's the story of a man who is raised in a samurai household, but is unable to actually wield a sword himself because his body physically repels metal, and so he breaks any metallic object that gets near him, but especially swords, which makes him, well, a failure of a swordsman. Until one day he is approached by a mysterious person. He's offered marriage by this mysterious woman and her family that he's never met, and he kind of begrudgingly, he doesn't want to marry her, and initially just is trying to fight it the entire time, and then ignores her for quite a period, but then eventually they start growing closer. He starts to be a lot more positive in life because he was very depressed prior to this, until one day a kind of catastrophe hits the household, and he discovers that his ability to repel metal is actually maybe not so unique as he thought, and perhaps there's something else going on here, and perhaps that's what brought or attracted his wife to him. So there's certain mysteries going on. There is a supernatural twist to this one. I really like Daruma Matsura's previous work, Kasane, which is available digitally in its entirety by Kodansha, I believe. It's 14 volumes, very good. Wonderful art style with this. Yeah, if it sounds like your thing, check it out. I really liked this first volume, very strong. Have the completion of a series as well. This is one that I love. It's very much up my alley. It's not one that I've seen a lot of people pick up over the course of the last couple years when it's been serialized or released by Yen Press. But this is volume 11 and 12 of Phantom Tales of the Night by Matsuri. This is the story of a mysterious innkeeper who, well, runs an inn and allows people to stay in exchange for their innermost secrets. The initial first couple volumes of this was quite episodic, but as we learnt more about the innkeeper, owner, and the others working within the inn, as well as some recurring guest characters, you see how this kind of spider web of individuals are actually tied together much more closely than you would have expected. And this one doesn't really have, like, it has a very strong ending. It has a very a lot of the storylines culminate and kind of reach their conclusion in a very satisfactory way, but I think the main conflict is not really the right word, but the main pull of, or question of, owner specifically and their relationship with some of the recurring characters is left up to interpretation, which I think is actually the best way to do this sort of thing. I really enjoy supernatural stories, especially when it comes to sort of the interesting intermingling of, you know, mortal humans and then these, just supernatural beings that don't really have the same sense of mortality. I just really love seeing how such different outlooks and different perceptions of life can impact relationships. And so this particular series does that very well, I think. It's also beautiful, really, really atmospheric. Lots of very cool body horror, if that is your thing. A lot of creepy stuff, puking up snakes and all sorts of things. It's really cool. I like it a lot. Not super duper long, and considering that it is completed in 12 volumes, it is maybe one to check out, especially if you like kind of this sort of episodic but also recurring kind of dark fantasy supernatural series in the vein of like Holic. It has somewhat of a similar vibe. I'm trying to think of something else that might be a little more, I guess sort of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun as well, but that one has a much more cohesive through line from the very beginning. I don't know. If you like that style of story, or if you vibe with that kind of thing, definitely check this one out. It is worth the read. Have the ongoing manga, the regular trim size stuff, bunch of Viz things to catch up on. So first and foremost, we have volumes 3 and 4 of Akan Banashi by Yuki Suenaga and Takamasa Moe. Apologies. This is an ongoing Shonen Jump title about Akane, who is a teenage girl whose father was a rakugoka, but was expelled from his rakugo school when Akane was quite young. But that just kind of lit this fiery passion within her to get revenge on the world of rakugo, so she is pursuing her own dreams to become a rakugoka. After recently graduating high school, she's dedicating herself to becoming a professional rakugoka, and all of the fun, interesting, quirky characters that are also invested in this particular art. For anyone who doesn't know, rakugo it's an art form, but it is comedic storytelling, wherein a performer will recount a typically funny, but sometimes sensual or horror, like creepy story, will recount a story for an audience, and in order to, well, paint a picture and create a scene. It's a form of live performance that is still done in Japan, but it's much more of a traditional art. Obviously, predates things like television and radio. And for another phenomenal series about Rakugo, be sure to check out Descending Stories, which is more of a period piece, whereas this is a modern setting. I really enjoy this series. It's one of the few titles that I'm still following in Jump. And in saying that, I don't follow it week to week for sure, but I do always enjoy it whenever I do sit down to catch up. It reminds me a lot of like Hikaru no Go or Chihaya Furu or Haikyuu for a more typical sports series. It's fun. Akane is wonderful. She's very spunky. She reminds me a lot of Chihaya or Hinata, or for maybe like a less sports focused protagonist, also Kyoko from Skip Beat. She's great. Very good at what she does, and very focused on what she wants in her career and her goals, and all of the people around her. It's got a real fun dynamic between all the other Rakugoka and those in training. Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't. It is one that is, as mentioned, available on the Shonen Jump app, so if you're not wanting to jump into like collecting physical volumes of this, it is available to read for a very small amount of money, and if you like it, then you can make the decision from there to continue following it digitally, purchase it physically, whatever you want to do. I'm not your boss, so you can do whatever you want. But yeah, it is one that I'm glad that I had the chance to read, or I'm glad is available digitally to allow people to try it out first. Another major Shonen Jump title that I am still following week to week via the app is Chainsaw Man 13 and 14. I adore this series. I know it's one of the ones that is very popular. I don't really need to convince people to read this or try this. It's very popular for a reason. I just really enjoy Fujimoto's work. I have for a very long time. I own all of their titles, including Fire Punch, including all of their short stories. Yeah, I just really love the style of story that Fujimoto writes. I like their really morally ambiguous characters. No one is a good person in a Fujimoto story, and that's actually really cool. There are a lot of very B-movie, schlocky, fun action, over-the-top gore. It's just a great time, whilst also being really hard-hitting. It understands the nuance and the need for like that goofiness to offset just the real bleak aspects of the settings and the characters and the situations that are in these series that Fujimoto creates. Always a good time. I really love Chainsaw Man. It's one of the most interesting titles we've seen coming from especially shonen manga in the last several years. So much so that you can obviously see its impact across the industry, and we are getting more of these weird, kind of very driven by the artist, not necessarily by general popularity titles, which I really appreciate. I much prefer a series or a creator that can create a story that is unique to them and isn't just a blatant appeal to the general masses in order to be profitable, which you do see a lot of in every media. but especially manga. Obviously, that's what I am most exposed to. But yeah, Chainsaw Man is wonderful, and I encourage you to check it out. Again, this is one that is available in the Shonen Jump app, so you know, even if you don't have to put the money down towards buying the full series to actually read the full series. Additionally, it is one that your library will definitely have, so maybe that's an option for you as well. And speaking of, very personal, unique, driven by artistry, weird, creepy titles that are a result of Chainsaw Man's popularity. Another title that I adore from Viz, it is being released under their Shonen Jump title. You can read it on Jump Plus as well as Viz's online, like the website, not the app, just because of some riskayness. But this is one that I adore. This one. This is Dan Da Dan. I have volumes 4, 5, and 6 in this month's video. This is the story of two high school kids, a boy and a girl. The boy is super duper nerdy. The girl is pretty popular, just kind of, no, she's not like the most popular girl in school, but she's certainly, on the higher on the pecking order. And after defending this boy from some girls who are bad-mouthing him, she learns that he is really into aliens, and she's like, that's ridiculous, aliens aren't real. And then he finds out that she's not into it, but she does believe in spirits and the kind of psychics, and he's like, that's not real, that people don't have psychic powers. And then they start arguing, and they kind of bet each other. They hold a wager between the two where they send each other to a spot that's really haunted, and then a spot that's known for its abductions, and lo and behold, both of those things are real. And shenanigans happens, and they get caught in some pretty terrible mess, and eventually are trying to fix these situations that they've found themselves in. Notably, our male character loses some very important anatomy for a young boy. This is, for as much as there's a lot of crass humor, there's a lot of dick and ball jokes, there's a lot of very juvenile humor. It's also really just genuine and fun and kind of pure. I really enjoy the relationship between the characters, as well as their expanded friend group as the series goes on. All of these kids are silly and weird and kind of dumb at times, but also smart at times, and they may be a pain in the butt, but also you can see how much they care about each other. It's just really great. I love this series, and for as much as there is crass and juvenile humor, there isn't actually a huge amount of, there's no fan service. It doesn't feel skeevy. I've always said, I try to present myself as a classy young woman, but I will laugh at a dick joke. Absolutely, I am not above that. If you like that kind of humor, then you will enjoy this as well. But truly, this is one where I've said it before in regards to the series. I've said it with Chainsaw Man as well. If you think you know where it's going, it's very unpredictable. And not in the way that feels really edgy or trying to be trying to be contrarian, where it's oh, well, this has never been done before. It's not that some of these things haven't been done before, but if you think that you know the direction that the series is going, there are certain elements that it will hit, absolutely, but the way that some of these conflicts resolve are not in the way that you would expect from an action-adventure, horror, goofy weirdo series like this. Yeah, I enjoy the series a lot. I always like when they introduce a new character, even if you're like, I don't know if I'll get along with this kid. You'll be soon be very much more supportive of getting along with that kid. The relationship between our two main characters is very sweet. Their friendship, as well as like the budding romantic stuff there. It's just all around a good time. The art's great. The action is really easy to follow and wonderful. We are getting a anime adaptation for this. I believe it'll be on Netflix. I'm not 100% sure. But I think Trigger is doing the anime, which actually will work really well for the series, I think. I am not up to date with anime in any capacity, so I'm not the person to ask, and it's not out yet. But I do look forward to when it does get released. And if not, this manga is one that I wholeheartedly recommend, and it's always a good time to reread. With Viz stuff, we have some Shoujo Beat titles as well. We have volume 39 and 40 of Yona of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. These are just, continuation of one of the best political fantasy adventure stories that we've gotten in several years. Yona is wonderful. I highly recommend it to any and everyone. It is immensely good. Just an overwhelmingly wonderful time, a fantastic experience all around. I highly recommend this series to everyone, regardless of your usual reading. It's one that has really something for everyone. Yona is a fantastic character. All of the dragons are really interesting and wonderful. Hawk is a great male lead. Suon, who's on the cover here, he's a wonderful kind of second male lead, an antagonist, anti-hero, sort of. This is just wonderful. I am following a couple series in Shoujo Beat, but this is always the one that whenever I get a new volume, I read it right away. Shoujo Beat title, we have The King's Beast Volume 12 by Rei Toma. This is ongoing still. It's the story of a female Ajin who Mulan's herself, who pretends to be her twin brother, or pretends to be male, in order to infiltrate the palace as a bodyguard to find out how her twin brother, who was in their childhood taken to the palace as a bodyguard, but then promptly killed, to find out what happened to her brother, to uncover the murderer within the palace. In saying that, that's kind of been resolved. That was resolved a couple volumes ago. And now we're more focused on the relationship between our two main characters, the fourth prince and our main character. There's some stuff going on with other side characters, but it is more so focused on the progression of the relationship between these two, especially considering that Ajin are regarded as secondary citizens or like a slave class. Especially female Ajin, who for the most part are relegated to sex work, typically. So there's that aspect as well. This is a spin-off of one of Toma's earlier series, Arcana of... Dawn of the Arcana? Yes. Dawn of the Arcana. I'm like, Arcana of Time? No. Incorrect. Dawn of the Arcana. Which also has a romance and these Ajin characters, I guess, race of people with animal features, ears and tails, and kind of higher strength and, more versatile and whatever. And that series did focus a lot on the discrimination of Arjun, of which this series has, but it has been less of a focus comparatively. And so I do think that it is a topic that Rei Toma does like to explore. It's also something she's sort of touched on in other series as well. So I do expect more of that aspect to come up in these latter volumes. In saying that, I kind of feel like this is meandering a little bit because the main drive of the main character has now shifted because she solved the thing that she came here to do. Obviously now priorities have changed. It's beautiful. It's very, very good. It's, if you like, I don't want to say forbidden romance, but kind of that. If you like these Mulan-esque stories, if you like this setting, it is kind of Asian, quote-unquote, royalty, then check it out. Not super duper long. I think there's 13 or 14 volumes out currently in Japanese, so we are pretty much up to date. And I don't think it'll go too much longer. Toma's longest series up until now has been, I think, 15 volumes. Maybe not even that much. So this is at least what we've gotten in English. Certainly one of her longer works. The original, or Dawn of the Arcana, which is the original setting of this Arjun verse, was 12 volumes in its entirety, so we are kind of hitting that similar length. I think The Water Dragon's Bride, or whatever that series is called, was 15 volumes, maybe 13, 15, something like that. So we're heading into the end game. Maybe not. Maybe I am going to be proven wrong. But it is worth checking out. Maybe one to explore through the Viz app or through your library. Again, I always think it's good to check out a series before committing to purchasing it. Finally, for the Shoujo Beat titles, we have Natsume's Book of Friends, Volume 29 by Yuki Midorikawa. This is one of my favorite series of all time. This is a slice of life iyashikei about a boy who can see spirits, inherits a mysterious book of friends from his late grandmother, and discovers that this book of friends is filled with the names of all of these various yokai. And rather than subjugating these yokai, which he could very, very easily do by having their names and controlling them, he's decided to relinquish these names, return these names, under the watchful eye of his bodyguard, Nyanko-sensei, who is actually a very, very powerful yokai called Marara, who, in exchange for being a bodyguard, has kind of enshrined this promise with Natsume that if he dies before he can return all the names, then he gets all the names. So he will become the most powerful yokai of all. It is very sweet, it's very soothing, it's very melancholy. I adore this series. It is hugely popular in Japan. It's one of those just very quiet classics that I think a lot more people in the English-speaking fandom are probably aware of the series now than when I first got into it several years ago, probably close to a decade ago. But I do think it is one of the titles that kind of slips under the radar for a lot of people, especially if you're not into shoujo manga generally. It's a fantastic all-ages series. It is very episodic, so you don't have to necessarily sit down and read all 30 volumes to understand the story. Each chapter is usually quite self-contained, but it's a very peaceful, organic journey of growth for Natsume and the people around him, and his relationship with yokai and his relationship with the humans in his life, his relationship to this, or with his grandmother, who he will never meet, who's the only other person he knows of that can see yokai, or at least initially. This is a beautiful series. It has 6 seasons of anime currently, a bunch of OVAs, at least 2 films. We have gotten some of those seasons licensed and released. The other ones are available on streaming. And in saying that, season 7 is coming soon. It's one of those titles that, like, from 5 to 95, everyone can enjoy. There's nothing too salacious or scary. In saying that, there is some really heartbreaking and effective and emotional depth to the series. There's a real heartache to some of these plot beats, especially regarding Natsume's life prior to the series. Yeah, I adore this so much. If you haven't tried it and you are a fan of Iyashikei, kind of healing manga, anything with a yokai twist, anything that is just kind of soothing in the same way that I would argue like a Mushishi is, or God, I can't even think of, maybe Hakum Mikochi, something like that. Just very undemanding, but at the same time very effective when it needs to be in regards to its emotions. Then definitely check out Natsume's Book of Friends. I love it. You should try it if you haven't. Certainly not least, for small trim manga, we have Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, volume 18 and 19. These are the most recent volumes of this series by Aida Iro. This is the story of a teenage girl or high school girl, who tries to make a wish via Hanako-san, the pretty typical kind of urban legend in Japanese schools about a ghostly little girl who'll grant you a wish. But instead she discovers that the Hanako-san at her high school is in fact Hanako-kun, the ghost of a teenage boy. And through various shenanigans, she ends up as his assistant, helping with various other urban legends, kind of the greater mystery of who Hanako-kun actually is, as well as this more negative force that is influencing all of the urban legends within the school and within the city. I love the series. It's fantastic. Don't allow yourself to be turned off by the name, because it doesn't really have anything to do with toilets. It's just that literally the urban legend of Hanako-san is that she is in the toilet stall of the girls' bathroom, which is why it's toilet bound, like bound to the toilets, not like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom really quickly. Yeah, don't let that turn you off. Love the art style for this one. I talk a lot of love for the series at all times. Really fun, interesting mystery. Another one that like completely emotionally wrecks me when it gets the chance, and just really, really, really good. I don't know what else to say except for that. It's just really good. Check it out. There's an anime. There's been a recent adaptation of like the after school Hanako-kun shorts. I think there's going to be something else, some other anime project regarding this title. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. We have we have the large term manga. No debuts for this. But we have ongoing titles 14 and 15 of Drifting Dragons by Taku Kuwabara. This is a fantasy food adventure manga. Not a dungeon crawler in the same way that Delicious in Dungeon is, but if you enjoy that series where it's like a ragtag group of people eating weird food from made out of fantasy ingredients, then maybe check this one out. I will as always, note the caveat that it is. So these are. I don't even know what they're called, Dragoneers, something like that. So they are on board this airship that helps with population control with dragons. They're kind of hired mercenaries, but not really mercenaries, not quite the right word. But they kill dragons in order to protect human, like, populated areas and airways. Our crew in particular is actually not, like, they do certainly do that, but they are much more discerning versus some of the other groups out there killing dragons for fun and profit or whatever. And the notable difference is that our crew, they every time that they kill a dragon, or most times that they kill a dragon, they then prepare a meal out of the body of this dragon somewhat in a way to kind of honor the fallen creature that they've killed. Very, very much emblematic of, like, the hunter's approach or the indigenous approach of, like, using all of the animal in order to honor its life. You see it in stuff like Golden Kamui. You could even argue that Delicious in Dungeon has aspects of this, but I do always kind of talk through the setting and do warn people, because the setting and kind of the way that these characters, like, the airship itself is very reminiscent of, like, historical whaling. And considering that Japan still has a whaling problem to this day, I can understand why people would want to avoid this series, because it's, I don't support whaling. It's not a good thing. We shouldn't be killing whales in real life, or at all, but, like, certainly it's not something that should be done or encouraged. But it is much more reflective of, like, Moby Dick style of whaling, or, like, whaling in the 19th century versus, like, modern day whaling. If that makes it any better, I don't know. You argue amongst yourselves for that. I do think that it handles the food aspect of that, or, like, the killing an animal aspect of that in the same way that Golden Kamui does, where, again, you kill the animal, but by eating it, you are honoring the life that you took. You're not just, killing something for the sake of killing it. Does that make it better? Again, you are you are big and grown enough to make that decision for yourself. I just do like to forewarn, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I do think it is a marvelous series, beautiful artwork, again, a really great cast of characters, and if you like fantasy food manga, then definitely check it out. Kind of a different vibe than Delicious in Dungeon, but not quite as cozy as, like, Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen. I don't know. There's a vast variety of fantasy food manga. I'm kind of picky about them, just generally, but I do really enjoy this one, and I do think it is worth trying, if nothing else. Going manga, this is from Square Enix. I don't own a lot of their titles, but this one I do love the series. This is My Dress Up Darling Volume 10 by Shinichi Fukuda, the fun rom-com ecchi series about high school kid. This is a girl who is very into cosplay but doesn't have the sewing or crafting skills to back it up. And the boy that she, or her classmate, that she kind of accidentally discovers is very good with his hands. He comes from a family who make the traditional dolls, and so is very good at crafting and very good at sewing, and so she enlists his help in making her various costumes, and slowly they become, well, not even slowly, they become pretty fast friends pretty quickly, and then of course romance blossoms. This is a really fun series. I really enjoy these two characters. I like how fun and varied the cosplay continues to be in this series. I think it captures the cosplay community pretty well as well. Plus, it's just really fun to see these characters, especially like kind of in high school, growing and maturing. It doesn't hide or shy away from the fact that, like, yes, teenagers are horny, but it doesn't ever feel super gross about it. I will say this is certainly probably one of the more fan servicey titles that I own. But in saying that, I don't feel skeevy reading it too much, at least. And I think the actual romance between the characters is very sweet. Do I think that Marin maybe needs to increase the size of her, like, bikini tops sometimes? Absolutely. Girl, that can't be comfortable. But I'm also, like, not blind to why that is the case. If a bit of fan service doesn't, turn you off too badly, and you like really strong friendships and romantic relationships and really, like, fun, creative costume design and stuff as well, and a really genuine relationship between the romantic couple, definitely check this one out. It's very good. Worth the read. I've said that for literally every book, but as per always, I don't buy things that I don't enjoy and wouldn't recommend. So if I sound like a broken record, sorry. You just have to deal with it, I guess. We have a Yen Press title. This is volume 11 of Hakum Mikochi by Takuto Kashiki. This is another series that is published in one of my favorite manga magazines of all time, Harta, nay Fellows, nay whatever it's called now. This is a wonderful slice of life yashike fantasy, I guess, story of just two little ladies who live out in the forest and just their day to day. One works for a construction company. One does cooking and sewing and design and stuff. I think she works at a store sometimes. I don't really remember. But this, this is a world where these forest creatures coexist with these tiny little people, a la the borrowers or Arietti, and just kind of coexist and live this very whimsical fantasy life together. And it's really fun and creative and sweet and very... I love Iyashike Slice of Life because I really appreciate the adoration for the mundane, right? Like, there's loving chapters about brewing coffee or getting a haircut or going on a walk, or preparing for an event. And it's not really about, like, the event or the big fun party at the end or the beautiful haircut you get. It's about the interactions you have and the fun of the journey and all of the day-to-day little things that we all have in our lives, or hopefully all have in our lives, and just reveling in the joy of existing. I don't know. I think it's like such a positive outlook on life, and I think it's something that people with such, considering how people feel so isolated and so disconnected from community in real life, I really think that the healing in these sorts of iyashike is about connecting with community and friends and genuine interactions with the world and appreciating our place in this giant mess that is life. And not everything's gonna be perfect, and sometimes things screw up, and sometimes you're not gonna be able to do everything, but that's okay. Sometimes that's for the best. It all plays into the appreciation of what we have in the here and now, and the simplicity and joy of those things. I think a lot of people get caught up in needing the new coolest best thing and the most of everything, and having the fancy car, and making a lot of money and working hard enough to get XYZ and all of these things. And I think what I find really appealing is just knowing or experiencing through these series, and it's a reminder to myself as well, that you can obtain just as much joy through going for a walk, or inviting a friend to the museum, or going out to buy some shoes, or making a decision with a sibling on what kind of, coffee beans or ice cream you want. And it doesn't always have to be a big, exciting, expensive, flashy part of life for it to be genuine and to have an impact. And I think what a lot of people, especially, I'm sounding so old, but I think a lot of these seinen iyashike is appealing to that. A lot of people my age and older, we're at a point with careers and families and things where that's all of our focus, and it's really easy to get caught up in the stress of every day, that everything is if you don't get everything perfect, then things are gonna go wrong, and then you're gonna have problems, and in order to avoid that, you just have to be better than everyone else, or do things in a certain way. And really, that's not true. That's not true at all. And when you step back, the best days that you have aren't when you're, doing awesomely at your job, necessarily, especially if it's a corporate job. It's not, buying the boat or going on the $15,000 vacation. It's spending Christmas with grandma and having your aunt teach you her lasagna recipe, and going out with your partner on a bike ride, and then buying pretzels afterwards. I'm sounding like a Hallmark card or super cheesy, but that's exactly the kind of comfort that the series and series like it provide. And so I just really vibe with this series. And if that sounds like something you're into as well, or that you need, maybe check out this series. It's really, really good. And that because it's from Harta, it's gonna be good. Just trust me. Trust me with this. Because if you want just vibes, just good vibes that make you appreciate the simple things in life, this series is so good for it. But it has a bit of whimsy, it has a bit of fantasy, and it allows you to engage with that. But then also reflect on your own life and see how you can incorporate. And it's not going to be 1-to-1, because I unfortunately can't ride a hawk if I wanted to. I am far too big. But there's the same sorts of things. I don't know. Check it out. It's really good, and the artwork's beautiful, and it's just impeccable, impeccable. We have a ongoing series from Denpa. This is volume 2 of March Comes in Like a Lion by Chika Umino. This is the shogi series from the creator of Honey and Clover. I adore the series. It's very sweet. Very happy to have this. This is just like the regular volume. There was an edition released in the US that had a slipcover drawn by Kentaro Miura, who prior to his passing was actually very good friends with Chika Umino, and they were fans of each other's work. So, you know, Americans, you guys luck out in a lot of ways. But yeah, this is the story of a high school boy who is also a professional shogi player, and has a lot of complicated feelings about that, and his relationship with the game, and his relationship with other players, and also his relationship with a family of 3 girls in his neighborhood who've just kind of like adopted him, similarly to a pet cat, and yeah, offer him sort of the warmth and unconditional love of a home that he's never really experienced, but at the same time he provides sort of support and structure and comfort to them as well, having just lost their mother. It's really good. It's one of those things that I think really explores, again, relationships between characters really well. Very dense with shogi, which is why this series was sort of a miracle license. I don't think a lot of people expected this to ever be licensed, but here we are, and I'm very happy about it. Yeah, I enjoy the series a whole bunch. It's a Denpa series, so of course it takes 4 million years for any volumes to come out. But regardless, I do recommend it, and you should try it. If not the manga, then do check out the anime. It is streaming on Netflix, I think, still. So yeah, worth trying. Worth trying. Just another fun. Well, fun's maybe not the right word. There is certainly fun and funny in a lot of places, but I do think it's more a story of growth across the board for all of the characters. Plus, oh my gosh, this series has one of my favorite side characters of all time. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy. Yeah, anyway, March Comes in Like a Lion. Support Denpa's release of it. You won't regret it. The quote-unquote regular manga, we have volume 14 of Bride's Story, or A Bride's Story by Kaoru Mori. I haven't read this, which is an atrocity, but this is one of my favorite series of all time. A historical romance about, well, a variety of brides across the Silk Road, specifically Persia. But yeah, oh my gosh, Kaoru Mori is a genius. I love her. I don't really, well, hopefully I don't need to convince anyone to try her works. Both this and Emma are true love letters to the genres that they exist in, i.e. romance, historical romance, completely different time periods, but oh my goodness, so good. Just the lushness of the setting is phenomenal in this series. I really enjoy most, if not all, of the relationships between romantic relationships, as well as like other internal relationships between the characters, but the romance is why it comes, right? Including our main couple, Karluk and Amir, who are a bit of an odd couple, very large age gap, but somehow they make it work, and it doesn't feel super creepy enjoying it. I cannot recommend the series highly enough. Kaoru Mori, her works are phenomenal. Another creator where I own all of her titles and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. or forever, forever. Yeah, check it out if you haven't. It is one of the best series, maybe ever, maybe ever. That's a bit hyperbolic, but I don't care. I'm gonna be hyperbolic today. To the BL. Or, well, mostly BL. I guess this technically isn't BL, but I don't care. I'm gonna put it here anyway. This is a debut. I have 2 volumes because, again, I had to wait a bajillion years and I gave up, going to my local comic store and just bought them myself. But this is The Summerhikaro Died, volumes 1 and 2 by Mokomoko Ren. This is the story of a teenage boy who lives out in the countryside, small town, and his best friend, who isn't really his best friend. He is a mysterious, creepy monster that emerged from the woods after his friend disappeared in the woods. But has all of his friend's memories and kind of is acting like his friend, but is absolutely not his friend. I adore this series. This was one of our top favorite in the debuts for 2023 on the Read Write to Laugh podcast. Both Wright and myself read the series and adored it. Yeah. This is phenomenal. I love it so much. I haven't actually read volume 2 yet, because I didn't get these until quite recently. But this is such a good series, and I highly recommend it, especially if you like horror and body horror and creepy vibes and BL and stories about guilt and grief and trauma and grieving a loved one specifically. Yeah, it's brilliant and it's immensely well regarded for very good reason. Absolutely check it out if you haven't. It is one of my favorite series, kind of all time. It really rocketed up the charts. That's a very strong statement to be sharing as of right now, but it's true. It's true. It is really, really good, and you should all read it if you haven't. Next is a volume that I just of a series that I love, and I actually didn't have this volume. I had this kind of subsequent volume, so not this one. This is volume 7 of Cherry Magic, 30 Years of Virginity Can Make You a Wizard, by Yu Toyota, the really fun, romantic comedy, I guess, about a 30-year-old virgin who gains the ability to read people's minds after his 30th birthday and discovers that the cool hot guy at work actually is head over heels in love with him. And at first he's just like, oh my god, why? What? But soonly, what the hell? Goodness, you can tell I've been recording a long time. But soon starts catching feelings himself. And the rest is history. This is a wonderful series. It's very sweet. Being published or serialized on Twitter and social medias, which is where it first gained notoriety, and had a recent anime adaptation, which was very well received, I hear. So go check that out if you haven't. This is wonderful. I love the series. It's very sweet, very wholesome. I do already have volumes 8 and 9. So this was just filling a gap that I had because my local comic shop didn't get me things. But yeah, definitely check it out. This is another one from Square Enix. We have kind of general term manga, BL. We have Lullaby of the Dawn by Ichika Yuno. This is volume 2 from Tokyo Pop. So this, or Love, I guess, is their proper branding nowadays. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the story. It's like a fantasy BL about like in society, there's these people who are kind of protectors. They're seen as kind of what's the word that I want to use? Priestess is like the female version of this. They're not priests. Uh, Certainly not priests. But they're seen as kind of protectors of the towns that they oversee, and the general public doesn't interact with them much. But it is revealed that, in fact, they are kind of these holy warriors that are protecting people from these horrible monsters that arise from the sea and try to attack or infiltrate and possess people. And over the course of fighting these monsters, these individuals, they're born like specific, like they have this specific innate talent. That's why they have white hair. But they slowly start to absorb all of the black inkiness of these monsters, and so their fingertips and toes and things start turning black until the black consumes them, and presumably they die. They have a fairly short lifespan. Anyway, our main, I guess Kanagi might be kind of, I don't know. They also age super slowly. Anyway, so he is kind of forcefully befriended by a local boy in the community that he overlooks, who kind of becomes his servant, butler, not quite the right word, like handyman. Just kind of, he's smitten. He loves this guy, but he's also just there to be helpful. You know, makes him food, buys his groceries, looks after him, and as such, something mysterious is happening to our main character. He isn't being stained by all this inky blackness and darkness and evil or whatever. Despite fighting all these monsters, and he's lived far longer than anyone ever expected. And maybe love was the cure the whole time. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. That's probably what the thing is, because that's what these things always are. But yeah, it's very decent, very strong, great world building. A lot more plot than anything else. It is, I'm not gonna say it's a slow burn romance. It's fairly obvious that these characters are interested in each other. But it's not, like, it's an ongoing plot. So we will continue to see progression across the course of the series, I'm sure. But yeah, very good. One of the titles that I was really looking forward to from Tokyo Pop, nay, love. And it does exactly what you would expect and hope for these titles. Not least for manga, my favorite BL manga of all time. This is volume 4 of Mone Sorai's Our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide. If it would actually focus, there you go. This is such a good series. I'm such a sucker for this kind of series. This is, a travel guide. It's the travelogue of a gay couple as they go on a around the world trip together, with the expectation that when they get home, and if they're all happy and good and, they've survived that much, they will go home and get married. Go home to Japan and get married, specifically. I love the series. I love traveling. I love a good romance. This couple is lovely, and I really like seeing this gay couple who face a lot of prejudice in Japan become more comfortable with themselves when exposed to the wider world, which I think is such a testament to the power of travel, because truly, like, absolutely there's bigotry in every part of the world, and like no place is perfect. But I do think that Japan, in a way that like a lot of places are, is very insular for some, and a lot of Japanese people, this is a generalization, so don't come, with your pitchforks, but a lot of Japanese people don't travel very far afield from Japan. And if they do, they tend to stick in, especially once you hit like a certain age, you tend to stick with a travel group or like a tour guide, and you don't really get the genuine experience of interacting with local people. Again, that's a generalization. I'm not saying that that's every Japanese person, but I do think that it's not a place where where people travel internationally a lot. There's a lot of internal travel, like to other cities and places in Japan, but not a lot of external international travel. I would say the same thing about America. There's a lot of people who travel all around the US. Maybe they'll go to Canada, maybe they'll go to Mexico, but they're not going that much further out of there. Like their overseas trip is going to Hawaii, which you shouldn't do anyway. But like there's not a lot of people who have a passport for international travel, and especially like if it's not mandated by work as well, because that's the other motivating factor. Whereas I don't know, there's lots of people in Australia who have never been outside of Australia. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that percentage wise per population, a lot more Australians do travel internationally. It's the same, like Europe, you can't even like exist without going internationally and interacting with your 13 neighbors that all have sort of similar but not quite the same language as you. That it's just a very different kind of way that people do things, that travel is perceived. And so my point is, I'm not trying to be like anti any culture or anything, any society, any country. That's actually, I'm being anti that. I love traveling, and I think it's an extremely valuable and educational experience that every person should experience, and hopefully have the chance to experience in some capacity, that puts them outside of their immediate comfort zone and exposes them to the world outside of their tiny bubble of existence. Because even if you live in a big city, even if you have friends from other cultures, if you have never left your city or your country, you have no fucking clue what the real world is like. And you gain a lot of perspective, and you gain a lot of nuance that I think also is why there's so many people, and obviously COVID had a big impact on this, but like I think this is the reason why there's so many young people, especially, I sound so old, but like a lot of young people who are so weird about stuff because they've never experienced anything outside of their own bubble, their own community, their own high school or university or church or whatever the fuck they're in. And so, to my point, this series captures the awe and the excitement and the complications and the sheer just overwhelming everything that is traveling and learning about the world, not just another country and another culture and another language, but the world. Because this isn't a couple going to like one other country. They've gone to so many countries, and they have more countries to go to, and all of those places teach them something new. And that's why I think that continuous travel is part of probably one of the best educations you could ever have. But unfortunately, not everyone has that luxury, And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to start arguments. But that's why I love the series. I think that they capture that Monesorai specifically has captured that aspect of why this is important for these characters so well. And I'm just really happy for them. And they're just like such a sweet couple. It's very domestic and lovely. And I just want to give them a big hug and say, I hope you had a wonderful time. And they're just very joyful, and they enjoy each other a lot, which is always nice to read in a romance as well. Yeah, I love the series. I've ranted enough about it. Go read it if you haven't. For the month, we have a Danmei, and I haven't read this because I actually don't have the volume before this. I think I have 1 to 6, but not 7. So this is volume 8, the final volume, or the final book, I guess, of MXTX's Heaven Official's Blessing, Tianguan Sifu. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I love the series about a god who has ascended to heaven 3 times over the course of his heavenly career, and has been kicked out twice. So this is the 3rd time's the charm, maybe. And he's come back poor, and with not a lot of power. And it runs into a mysterious, handsome man, who everyone quickly discovers is one of the extremely powerful ghost kings of I guess the underworld, maybe. I don't know. I'm not that great at this. Huacheng, Crimson Red Flower, whatever. Crimson Red Blooming Flower. I don't know. Don't at me. I don't know. Huacheng, Xiaolian is our main character. Apologies for pronunciation. I am terrible at any kind of enunciation, even in English. So any sort of tonal language, I'm just gonna be crap at. I am trying. Believe me, I'm doing my best, but I'm not good at it. But yeah, I mean, this is a favorite across Danmei communities. MXTX is a goddess. Everything she does is great. All 3 of her series are very popular. Her 2, like this and Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, are much more popular than Scumvillain's Self-Saving System for perhaps obvious reasons, but I love them all. And with this, it kind of wraps up Seven Seas' MXTX books. It's the final of the 3. I know that MXTX is working on a new series, so perhaps not her last novel series, but these books are what launched Danmei into the mainstream, in publishing at least. And now, of course, we have all sorts of Danmei being released by, not just by Seven Seas, but also, Violacte and Peach Flower House, as well as some others. This in the same way that like Yen Press and J Novel Club proved that there was a market for light novels, Seven Seas has proven that there's a market for Danmei. And this series, along with its sister series, is just kind of the proof in the pudding with that. So yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to this particular book because I haven't read it. But I will at some point, especially once I get volume 7. That'd be good. Can't read 8 before 7. But yeah. Everything that I got for April. Oh my goodness, wasn't that a lot of books? Hopefully this video isn't super long. I didn't want to rant too much, but I know that I did rant some. So hopefully not too long, considering the sheer amount of books that I got. But yeah, tell me your thoughts, feelings, opinions on any of the titles that I was talking about. Let me know. if there's anything you've recently been reading that you've enjoyed, and maybe I will be reading it, maybe I have read it. Yeah, otherwise you can follow me on this channel, subscribe if you haven't. I also co-host a podcast with my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures. That's available on this website as well as all podcasting platforms under the title Read Right to Left. You can also find me on the social media hell site that was formerly known as Twitter. My handle is that's GEE_reads. I'm on there. I sometimes tweet about manga. Mainly I'm just tweeting about my ongoing life updates. But sometimes I talk about manga or other hobby related things. Not really. I just kind of lurk, and then sometimes retweet things, and then sometimes post a photo of me in a cute little outfit. Yeah, but that might be an option for you guys to come follow me there. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Bye till then.